Do you understand the metaphoric phrase light as a rock? It's explaining how heavy the young lady is. You know what I'm saying, King?
Yes, my brother, but I would consider light as a rock a simile because of the usage of the word as.
I am the light. L-Y-T-E. I am the light. L-Y-T-E.
Hey, y'all. Hey. We happen to be in the presence of the month of March. Hallelujah, amen. Ashe. I am in the comfort of my humble abode. With that being said, that means that my son is going to be here. My son is on set. So this podcast is brought to you by your host, featuring her heartbeat, her papa, her Mase Amaru. Mase Amaru. Who is 7 months. He turned 7 months yesterday. So happy 7 months to Mr. Mase Amaru. If y'all hear any action going on in the back, that is Mr. Him. That is him. Today, Tay Jahnee and Mase Amaru brings you on Poetically Preaching, the topic of feminism. I've been planning this episode for what is years now. When I was at the radio station, shout out to ARS Atlanta P. Weezy. When I was there, it was like, I was dropping all of these different controversial topics, but I let things discourage me, and so I didn't get a chance to drop my feminism episode. And around this time, I mean, even now, like, deep into Angela Davis, Alice Walker, Nikki Giovanni, Toni Morrison, all of them in regards to speaking about feminisms and stuff like that, and that whole movement. I think that's probably my favorite movement of all time is like the radical feminism. And we gonna get into that. We definitely gonna get into that. And before I go into the spiel, because we are in the presence of March, we are also celebrating and glorifying Women's History, because it's Women's History Month. So y'all already know, like, we celebrate that year round. We just turn it up a notch, you know? We just turn it up a notch on March. We just turn it up a notch because I feel like the basis of a lot of what, feminine energy, feminism was, breaking out into the chains and the evolution that we just come from. Like, we came from being housewives, and no hate to the housewives at all, because, but, we've evolved from that. So now it's not as, you're not a housewife. Like, and I hate that it is. I hate that sometimes it is you're a housewife. Like, everybody's lifestyle fits them differently. Everybody, does things differently. But before we even start going into this, and before we get deep down into it, and we get to getting, I would like to appreciate you guys for listening to every episode, listening to some episodes, listening to a episode. I appreciate you guys. I get a lot of feedback coming from, like, people who, you least expect. So I really want to say I appreciate that. And I also appreciate you guys for having your open hearts and minds on this episode to receive knowledge, to receive, what I'm spitting to you, to pick up what I'm putting down. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate the brothers here for also expanding your knowledge outside of patriarchy. I mean, and in some form of fashion, it does deal with patriarchy, but, not all the way. But before we, see, I keep going on these tangents. But before we get into it, I'm definitely gonna, drop a quote, because y'all know I love quotes, because I feel like it's always like they always say different things, like, but all umbrellas like under one topic. And I think that these quotes resonate with this topic so much, because it's like, we seek from. I genuinely just went through like a brain scramble, but I genuinely like quotes because it always shows me different perspectives and different point of views on how, one subject can, or honestly how multiple subjects can be in regards to this. I'm not the first person to think about this thought. I'm just a person pushing this thought, pushing this topic, pushing this, whatever it is pushing the speech, making people want to go, no, where does this come from? A lot of my knowledge and the things that I was picking up was coming from the great Angela Davis, Nikki Giovanni. She had that interview and everything with James Baldwin, which was very inspiring. Probably one of my favorite waves of feminism around that time. Nikki Giovanni, Toni Morrison, Alice Walker, the creator of womanism. We're going to get into that. That's going to be another episode. This is going to be a 2-part episode in regards to feminism, but the third part is going to be more so... Y'all will just see when we get there. I'm not going to break my brain cells trying to figure out the words that I'm trying to say. Y'all gonna pick up what I'm putting down, and hopefully you utilize that in your day-to-day life, and you also carry on to also educate people around you when you are having these kind of discussions, because that's the most important thing. That's the biggest thing. But back to the whole topic of the quotes, because that's how I even got here. So my first quote is actually one of my favorite quotes of all time. I've definitely said this quote before when I was at the radio station, because it genuinely is I'm gonna just tell you the quote. First of all, I love her. But I'm gonna get into it. I'm sorry. To understand how any society functions, you must understand the relationship between the man and the woman, by the great, amazing, absolutely wonderful Angela Davis, who is still here with us today. My goal is to get her on one of my episodes. That is one of my great big goals, because boy, does she exude. And just the simple fact of she's been here through so many different phases of the world, of society. So to get that perspective, ooh, chef's kiss, yours, beauty. The quote definitely resonates with this topic, because it pretty much explains that in each society, the way the man and the woman function is the reflection of society. And until you understand that relationship, you will never be able to understand how that community functions, how that society functions. And I think one of the biggest things that we overlook is that feminism was created by a white woman. A white woman created feminism. So how can we be so quick to pick up on somebody else's culture and not really go into ours? We don't function like them as much as we want to, as much as we be trying, as much as we don't function like them. We are on two different plateaus. We just not dead. This ain't dead. That's just what it is. No hate or no disrespect. That's just, we just don't come from that. Our culture derives from a whole different set of traditions than theirs. We have passion and love in our relationships. A lot of their relationships are ran on business timing, very much so. Get this shit done, Sherilyn. No, I mean Maggie. In some form of fashion, not all the way. There are some slight differences in regards to what we face day to day when it comes to different races, when it comes to feminism. And what in that time also is being more what is being more talked about? What is the conversation about? What is it that we're trying to fight for? What is it that we're against at this moment? So I think that, in that quote, it oftentimes it makes me think about, the relationships that you see amongst, those that look like you, and the relationships that you see amongst those that don't look like you. A lot of times it's easier to judge because you don't know that culture, that society. You don't know how they function. You don't know who they are, how they are. But it's easy to see what's going on with somebody that looks like you because you're so much more familiar to it. And we took on feminism, and we didn't keep in mind that this was created by a white woman for a white woman, meaning that this is created based off of how her relationships function. We can't, outsiders are going to be outsiders because that's what they do. But when it comes to what you have going on in your world, in your society, in your room, you can't look for others to, reach out. It kind of goes hand in hand, just in regards to being in a relationship. Like, a lot of times you might go look for these outsiders to give you advice on how you should, go about this relationship, whether it be intimate or non-intimate. But a lot of times you can't let that dictate your decision, because sometimes, a lot of times, they don't fully understand how the relationship functions. Of course, now don't get me wrong, because I did talk about my toxic episodes, so don't get me wrong. If you feel in the vibe, because our intuition always speaks to you. If you feel in the intuition and it's a no for you, let it be a no, mama, because 9 times out of 10 it's probably not for it. Or let it be a no, sir. Let it be a no, king. Let it be a no. But we're searching outside and we're looking, spiraling. But you can't go search for those things, because a lot of times you may have memories or things or conversations that you might have not, translated in the correct way, or, you might have not told the story in which, in the order it happened and how it happened. You might not be given the build-up points. You might not be a great storyteller, because those are just those. And it sounds like minuscule, but those things matter. Like, because it tells you, like, oh, okay, so this is that and that is this. All right, I know I said that there were several different forms of feminism. Today, we are going to talk about cultural feminism, radical feminism, and liberal/mainstream feminism. Also, the basis, we have so many different ideas and definitions behind what feminism is. At this point, it gets confusing, especially in a society where being politically correct is like way more important than a lot of other things in the world. Basically knowing yourself, pretty much. Feminism is the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of the equality of sexes. So it's essentially, I want to be equal to the man in layman terms. But what we overlook is that there are so many different forms of them and waves of them, that the waves are essentially like, are what the topic of discussion is. The topic of discussion is that we're not getting paid as much as men are, and we're busting our butts, and we're being discriminated against because we are women. Okay, that's the topic of discussion. But then you have forms of feminism that pushed it even more, that have other ideologies that we're going to get into. We all know the basis of it is Susan B. Anthony, 1920s, fighting for the right to vote. What it was their husbands really didn't want them to vote. Their husbands disrespected them. I think that's one of the differences, is like their husbands genuinely disrespected them. Like, in our culture, our husbands do not disrespect us. This is not our culture. This is someone else's, where we have disrespect coming from our husbands. What we also fail to realize is that she didn't want our black asses to vote either. She didn't want us to vote. She didn't want black women to get out there and vote. No, this is about us, for us, by us. They pulled a us on us, FUBU. Like, no, we don't want you to vote. We want our vote as white women. And a lot of black women were kept out of the campaign for the right to vote in the 1920s. A lot of them. You had in the black community, the fight was African American women wanting their licenses to preach. Before there was Seneca Falls in New Jersey, there was a quest for black women to seek their political power. You had Jarena Lee, who was trying to get her preaching license. You had Maria Stewart, who was a widow teacher in Boston in the 1820s. And her fight was the future of the African American communities that have made the transition from slavery to freedom. So it's like getting rid of the institutionalization, working towards building the community. And actually, and in that time, as a woman, you're not getting as much respect as you would get if you're a man. So it's like, trying to fight for those freedoms. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, my girl got 4 names, okay, friend? She spoke on anti-slavery. She has a book, Education and the Elevation of the Colored Race. And she was based out in New Bedford in Massachusetts in the Massachusetts. That's a mouthful. Sometimes you don't realize, like, how you don't say words in a minute. That was it. But she was based out of Massachusetts in 1854. And she was fighting for black women's double burden of racism and sexism. So this is the start of, not only am I fighting for the liberations as a woman, I'm also fighting for the liberations as being a black woman. I personally, Mrs. Harper, I didn't hear about her until I did my own deep diving. Skimmed over her, but never actually knew what it was, because from my knowledge, from what I'm being taught, and from what I know, the first set of feminism was Mrs. Anthony, and she wanted women to vote. Totally off the rocker, because that's not what it was. She wanted white women to vote, and that wasn't the first set. And it's all in about what they teach us. It's all in about what we go search to go find for ourselves. And another thing with, white women and their feminism was that, they weren't fighting for race. They were fighting in regards to sex, because race wasn't a problem. It wasn't a problem to them, at least. It wasn't a problem to them at all. They didn't have to worry about those things. Our big issue was the whole package in regards to the oppression we faced as being black, and then also the oppression that we faced being a woman. So we're gonna get into our first form of feminism, starting in the 60s. You have radical feminism. And that's pretty much tear all this shit down and let's build this bitch back up. Let's build it back up. Let's tear it down and let's build it back up. Basically, in layman terms. It was also just a perspective within feminism that calls for radical reordering. We gotta tear down the system and then we gotta build it back up. I don't know if guys know about Toni Cade Bambara. That's another one. Her name slipped my mind when I was dropping my names. She was the co-founder, essentially founder to it. You can look it up and you'll find multiple founders, but here on What I Speak, because we don't get too much of this, it's gonna be black. It's gonna be pretty black. Toni Cade Bambara. Gotta put respect on her name. Gotta put respect. It was essentially the second wave of feminism. That came after. And that was more so basically the fight in regards to understanding the world through a woman's eyes, because so much, they put on the forefront of how everything that we're seeing, everything that we know, and certain things that are given to us are through the eyes of a man. And it was a problem, because now we're losing sight of the essence of a woman, and we don't know what it's like to have that sense of compassion. Not saying that men don't have it, but in that time and in that moment, everything was depicted in a man's point of view. You really didn't have many women point of view situations going on, as far as media, as far as literally everything. Media, what else is there? Perspectives, but all of that falls into media. TV shows, commercials, movies, everything, literally everything. And so their idea was, let's reform society. Male supremacy was eliminated in all social and economic concepts. That was their idea, while recognizing that women's experiences are affected by other social divisions such as race, class, and sexual orientation. They felt as though men were the oppressors. My oppressor is a man. I feel as though I'm being discriminated against, and there are things that I cannot do because I'm a woman, and that's not fair. That's not fair at all. It was the form that their topic of discussion was the biological contingent burden into a political penalty. They felt as though it's because I can reproduce, because after I reproduce, I have to go through postpartum and I have to go through all these different things, that it's a burden and it's a political penalty. Like I can't be allowed to express myself in a manner and in a way because of all of these things that are natural, that happen. You had Ty Grace who said the need men have for the role of oppressor is the source of the foundation of all human oppression. The idea of radical feminism is that the reason why we're oppressed is because of the man. So what we're going to do is we're going to completely knock off the whole idea of a man. We're not for them. We're not with them. Because we cannot, how we're being oppressed by social systems that you guys control. So we gonna go ahead, knock it down, and build it back up because you're holding the simple fact that, I am a woman and I am more nurturing. You're holding that against me systematically where you're making, I can't do certain things. Then you have feminism that comes up and not feminism, Lord. You have cultural feminism that comes up and is like, hey, I don't totally agree with that. We gonna slide out real quick and we gonna come up with what we want to come up with. Radical feminists felt like the cultural feminism form was trying to depoliticize, remove them from political activity. And their cultural feminism topic of discussion was there is a female nature, a female essence, an attempt to revolve and redefine attributes as described to femaleness, not be so masculine in a sense if we want to just, put it out there. We want them to know that we have a female essence about us. And this is important. We're not gonna, radicalize. We're gonna redefine. We're gonna rebuild it. We're not gonna knock it down. We're gonna go in. We're gonna sit here and pull strings and make some stuff work. And we're gonna work around what we have now. Their intention was social change, the change in revolutionary proportions. Like it's not fair that I can't do these certain things, and commending and not looking at it from it was more of a positive, it was like, to me, in a sense, cultural feminism was more positive and more feminine than radical feminism. Sorry, y'all, these isms is getting to me, okay? Mind you, I did 4 takes because my son was acting like I never gave him no attention ever. But their theory actually commended the innate difference between man and woman. It commended that, we are different. We do have these things. But on the feminism side of it was the female characteristics are are more superior than male characteristics. And of course rumble feathers. Also, one of their theories was women are more likely to reduce conflict and war in the world than men because men have egos, and not that women don't have egos, but women can be more empathetic. It can be thought out on a different aspect, a different perspective. But when you're dealing with other male leaders, it is a bit hard. I understand that, but the idea was that place us in the big house. Put us on the floor. Let us show you what we can do. Don't continue to systematically keep oppressing me. And I'm showing you that I am feminine. I am a female. I can be soft. Radical feminism was like, hey, bro, look, I'm not for it. Just because we women and we can reproduce and we gotta, we have to take time off. And just because we're these emotional, not emotional, emotional. Because I think a lot of times when we automatically attach a negative connotation to the word emotion when referring to a woman. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being emotional, with being sensitive. A lot of people don't have that in them. And that's why, and those people don't have nobody around them. Why? Because they don't have a level of sensitivity. Now, we can go into emotional intelligence and we could talk about how there is a time and a place, and how, you know, sometimes more women than men, you know, go off the deep end a little bit. Okay, you know, we're not gonna sit here and make it seem like it's one or the other. They saw an opportunity to rebuild society completely with female-centered institutions and power structures and different things. Like, let's make this female-centered, female-oriented, because we need this. And to that extent, I understand, because you get tired of being around men all the time. You know? You get tired and you want to chill with your homegirls. You want to have that moment. You want to go have that brunch session with the girls where y'all talk and y'all are able to relate and communicate and understand each other, because essentially the mind frame is the same, right? But unfortunately, cultural feminism did not stick for very long. It started in the 70s and began as a societal critique about gender norms, and then it just went down there. Intersectionality is the reason why so many different forms of feminism have derived, because we're not thinking about the basis of being a woman, because we had radical feminism to kick in that door. We had Miss Lee, Miss Maria Stewart, Miss Harper. We had all of them to be like, hey, you know, it's beyond just what I got, what my sexuality is. It's beyond that. That's about me. You know, I'm talking about the whole package. I think that if I could go back a time and go back in any time, it would be around the 60s and the 70s. Because I truly adore the fight and standing firm in what you believe in as a woman when the world is painted and is patriarchal. Because the fight in the 1970s, that's when you have, you guys really got to listen to it. Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin, the conversation. And the conversation that they were having in regards to, you know, where when he grew up, you know, 50s and 60s, and where she's growing up 60s through the 80s and 70s and stuff like that, is that respect me as a black woman. Respect that I'm not asking you, and I know that it is your nature to want to give. I know that it is your nature to want to provide for me. But just know that that's not what I need. I need you to respect me. Because like I'm saying, we're falling behind and riding so hard for this feminism that wasn't created in regards to our dynamic of our household and how we function. So, because you had a lot going on in that time. You had crack. That wasn't then, but that was like heroin and all that extra stuff. You had the Vietnam War. You had the movement. You know, and granted, like, it's not like you in the movement by yourself. It's not like, you know, you're in the movement alone. I'm with you. I'm standing 10 toes behind you. I'm right behind you. I just ask that you respect me still at the end of the day. You know? And what a lot of them was like, if it's too hard, then should I go? I'm on my business. Because the thing was, their relationship, their fight was conclusive to the relationship between the black man and the black woman. It was all conclusive to that. You know, it all mattered. You know, it was all the same fight. You know, because now, you know, I'm standing a little 10 toes harder, because now I'm fighting for respect as a woman. Like, but then on the back end, I'm standing behind you because I'm fighting for the respect as a black person. You know, and that's when everything started to form, because the white man's goal was to make black women feel like it is the black man's fault, or why she is in the situation, or essentially we are in the situation that we're in. It's his fault because, you know, he can't get a job, or because, you know, we're placing all of these writes upon him that he can't flourish to be his best self. Because you also have to think, like, this is Jim Crow wasn't that far along. Let's be honest. Like, we're just breaking through civil rights movement. We're just breaking through civil rights. So now we're getting closer. We're bonding more together. So it's always, the white man's job to figure out, how can I break this up as much as possible? Because one thing about it, and two things for sure, y'all ain't never seen no real couple, so y'all seen a black power couple. Them black biggity black. Ooh. Chef kiss yours beauty. Chef kiss yours beauty. And the difference between is like, radical feminism came in and was like, knock all this shit down, let's get into it. Finna shoot this shit up. Then we're gonna rebuild this bitch back up. Y'all are the reason why we oppressed. Y'all the reason why we down bad right now. And that shit not fair. So what we gonna do is we gonna knock y'all asses off of the planet Earth. And cultural feminism was like, oh no, we're just gonna redefine. We're just gonna rebuild. We're just gonna make more institutions more female-centered. We're going to commend the fact that we are different from man. We are going to commend the fact that we have a female essence, a female nature. We're going to accept that. But because at this point we've passed civil rights, so we deep into the Malcolm and we're deep into the radicalism all in all. So at this point they didn't have a stand. It was like, get that out of here. Get that out of here. No, we stomping on necks now. It ain't none of that no more. We on it. We are on top of it. Like, we're on top of it. And it didn't do anything because okay, I take those words back. It did a lot of things. The backlash was the simple fact that, we're following, we're riding behind this this tradition and this culture and this society that we don't have any attachment to from our past. We don't live that way. So the easiest way that I can do, we've already been conditioned real bad at this point. Real bad. We've been conditioned at this point. So now we haven't gotten to the religion condition yet. Now we're in the condition in regards to the female and male dynamic. And now we're breaking those conditions in regards to what we followed and what we were taught and what we believed to be true. And the simple fact that, the manipulations that were set in stone for us to, be radical towards, our closest, our man, and that was, part of the problem. You have pros and cons behind everything that you do. Without life, there would be no balance between good and bad. We always have our up days and we have our down days. But what would we do if we didn't have them? What would we have then? Like, how would we be able to... We would never know what a struggle is. Struggle brings character. If you're not struggling, you're not breathing for real. That's just me though. Our next feminism, which was liberal and like mainstream feminism. And there was one of the earliest forms of feminism around this time, top tier with radical and cultural. Their focus was eliminating the gender inequality. Was founded by Abigail Adams and Mary Wollstonecraft. They were both white women. That women needed to be educated just as much as men. So now we're on the education tip. We're moving down this road because now we're not getting the same education because of the systematic oppression that we're in. So because we don't have the education, although we seem willing and urgent and eager to learn more, we're not getting that. We're not receiving that. And under every feminism, every kind of feminism, depending on how you do your pyramid, you have different organizations and little organizations that come from it. Women's Liberation Movement is one of them. They came in, and at this moment, on top of the simple fact that we're not receiving the education that men are, we're also going to fight for political and legal reform. You had Simone de Beauvoir. In 1946, she wrote about what it's like to be a woman. Because around this time and in this era between the 60s and the 70s is that we're living in a patriarchal society. And I can't say that too much has changed, but that's a conversation for another time. But I want you to know what it's like to be a woman. I want you to know, what it's like to go through a divorce on my side. What it's like to study to be a lawyer and then be barred because I'm pregnant. I want you to know what it's like to be employed under a man as a woman. Individualism. This is who we are as women. We are not woman with man. This is what it's like to be a woman, not a woman with her man. This is not what it's about. This is about the individualism of a woman, of a female. Also, and pragmatism. The political battles that seem unwinnable. In fighting for those. They're to support marriages as an equal partnership. More male involvement in child care. Pushing the male role. All the while, supporting the woman. Support for abortion and other reproductive rights. Being pro-choice. If you want to do it, then do it, ma. If that's not what's set out for you, then by all means. You don't have to go through that. But we're going to support you every step along the way, because around this time, abortions was... what? Huh? You aborted your baby? How could you? How could you? Ending domestic violence. Sexual harassment being removed, and obstacles to women achieving on an equal level. Like I'm saying, working under a man. Working under a man and trying and not being sexualized in that moment. I'm coming to work. I'm not coming to flirt with you, sir. I'm coming to work. But then again, you're in this position to where if you might raise up, it's over with. And that's what it was. Putting the problems on the forefront. Let's talk about it. Let's create something, and let's genuinely talk about what it's like to be a woman, and how we have to function over this. How we have to function as if this is not happening. How we have to still be clear and stay focused on what our goals are. And in certain cases, just being put in that predicament to where, molestation and different kinds of things. We're putting that on the forefront. And there's always successors, and there's always, those things that just don't happen the way that it should do. But with feminism overall, it helped Western women with increasing educational opportunities and the right to vote and protection against workplace discrimination and the right to pro-choice, being able to your body, your choice, being able to do that in regards to having a voice in the community, having a voice when it comes to on a wide span of presidency and everything else, and even locally, challenging pervasive cultural norms about women, the idea that we're more emotional, so we wouldn't be able to make logical decisions, and we wouldn't be able to make the right decision, essentially. We can't do these things because we're women. You cannot get a job here. You cannot be a lawyer because you're reproductive. You're a walking reproduction system, you're going to reproduce eventually. You're going to have a child sooner or later. Like, and then that means that we got to find somebody else. So to prevent us from even getting there, we just not going to hire your ass at all. Or as soon as we find out the moment that you're pregnant, you're out of here. Or even if we have the slightest bit of a clue, you're out of here. And the success with cultural feminism was that women were able to get improvements on healthcare and able to the access to healthcare, improving the access to healthcare, because essentially we don't really know what to do when it comes to a woman, because there's not much perspective of being a woman. We don't really know how to treat you correctly, because we don't really know too much about a woman. And then also, where's your husband? Is your husband around? Where's your husband? I'd like to speak with your husband. You probably won't be able to understand what I'm saying, because you're too emotional right now, because you're in pain. Also, with reproductive rights, the overall, like I said, like in these umbrellas, feminism has an overall, and you have like these waves, and at this time, like, this is what the fight was for, like, because we're being discriminated against these things. Reproductive rights, protection from violence, because, man, this is when drugs was popping. Drugs was always popping, but drugs was popping. Drugs was, let's get it popping. And, when you're under those drugs, they drive you to do different things. And not only that, like, I mean, it's just a division all in all between the man and the woman, because at this point, so many details are being placed far between us that we can't even communicate to each other the right way. We can't even, I can't tell you how I feel, and you can't tell me how you feel, because I don't have a job, and I'm being held, responsible of things that I've done, and you're out here, getting jobs and working for this man and showing him more respect. I'm about to beat your ass for it. I'm about to beat your ass, because now you tripping. I'm finna show you who really the man. Stuff like that. With radical feminism, it was abortion rights. Do what you gotta do, ma. If that's what you gotta do, if he's not, whatever it is, do what you gotta do. Do what you have to do. Do what is best for you. Because at the end of the day, it's always mommy's baby and daddy's maybe. Don't ever forget that. Equal rights. They pushed the Equal Rights Amendment. And access to credit. Because like I said, where's your husband, ma'am? Where's your husband? Equal pay. Because I'm a woman, you're not gonna pay me to the value of my work. You're paying me to the value of who I appear to you as a woman, and the simple fact that I can reproduce, and you get me right up out of there. Like, I'm not understanding. With mainstream feminism, it was to participate in public life as through the suffrage, being on the forefront, putting them on the TV. Examine the institutions of marriage and the legal framework of divorce and property laws. Because it was also, I can't get the land that I can't buy land because I'm a woman and I need to be with the man. That's essentially what it is, because I need to be with the man in the sense of, if I want land, it would only have to go through the man, and that's not fair. Why can't I purchase my own land? Why can't I be the homeowner of my house? Why is it that this divorce is always going in favor to the man when I'm the one that has to take care of the baby? I'm the one, or not even granting the woman the divorce she wants. Different things of that nature. And challenging the practice of denying women access to damn near everything, to all of the things that I've just spoke about, to literally everything. We're pushing that because it's not fair. So now we about to talk about it because you're denying me the access to land, the framework of divorce, abortion rights, equal pay, fucking domestic violence. You're denying me the access to help to these things. You're denying me the access because I am a woman. You are discriminating me because I am a woman. Sometimes we overlook that the simple fact, the reason why feminism is because of what we've had to fight for. Feminism also is looked at as a separatist movement. It is looked at as something as to separate man and woman. And I feel like a blind man could see that. But it also depends on how hard you're going for it, and the level of maturity that you're dealing with, because you may just not be mature enough to, abide by these, not even abide, but follow the ideologies and these theories, and not be able to allow it to break your relationships. Again, intimate and non-intimate. That in feminism, we in everything we don't have all of the answers. And everything doesn't come just the directive, oh, this is what I want, this is what it is, whatever, da da da. No, there takes trial and tribulation to have to get to where you have to get to build to where you need to be. And with feminism, that's exactly what that is. Feminism is the build to who we want to be as women. The clash is that sometimes we lose sight that we are women, and that it is okay to be feminine, and that it is okay to be soft. It is okay to do that. It's not okay to be soft and not use your discernment. It's not okay that you are allowing, disrespect because you are a woman. My mama always say, you either stand for something or you'll fall for anything. And the idea, the idea was, men, you are the problem. The problem is man. The reason why we are oppressed is because of you. The reason why we cannot do what it is that we want to do and grow a legacy alongside you is because you are oppressing us. Because you are oppressing us, we're going to create these movements and we're going to stand on what we got to stand on 10 toes. And there's going to be nothing that you can say about it. And the moment that you do, we outside with it. And I think that the clash was that, you want to do what you want to. At that point, it was, you want to do what you want to do. Okay, well, I'm going to treat you like a man. The thought that failed was, for women, was, I can, and I will, and I am, and I did it. The only reason why I say failed is because we lost sight of who we are as women. We forgot who we were as women. And I wish that cultural feminism would have been around longer to show women that it is okay to be feminine. It is okay to have that feminine essence about you. It is okay to be who you are. If you are a radical, then you better go ahead. You better do what you must. But don't forget you have a female essence. I hope that from this episode you guys took away, I hope you guys resonated closely with, what feminism you liked more and what your theories and ideologies are individually as yourself, because I think that not too much has changed from that time. We are still fighting for certain things. There are certain discriminations that are still very prominent. And I think that it's only right that as women, we continue to push those envelopes and we continue to bring back up these conversations and we continue to start at the base and build from there. And we never forget where we come from and we never forget who we are. And we always stand 10 toes on our vaginas. And that there is nothing wrong with being sensitive and emotional and empathetic. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. You be empathetic. You feel what you feel. You love who you love, because at the end of the day, you are a woman. You are a woman with a female essence that no one can take from you. Okay? It is Women's Month. We are in the presence of March. Shout out to everybody that made it here. Another March in 2023. We just getting started in the beginning of this year. Stand tight and hold on to you, and don't ever forget that all you have is you, baby girl. That's all you have. And that goes for anybody. We go looking for friends. We go looking for people to build us up and pick us up and put us back on. But you have to do that. You know when you ready. And ladies, don't ever question your intuition. She speaks louder than your thoughts. If anything, she is your thoughts. Don't let that go over your head. Stand true to you, stand firm in who you are, and don't forget to celebrate because you are a woman. You are a womanly woman, okay? With your skin glowing brighter than the sun, okay? I see you with your sundress on, girl. You better show them you are you, and that's who you will forever be. Again, I appreciate you guys, and y'all have a lovely day, lovely week. Again, happy March, happy Women's History Month. And again, as I always do, appreciating you guys for your ears, for your thoughts, for your open hearts and your open minds. I hope that I didn't step on too many toes. And if there be any feedback, let me know, because this is just information I pick up, from myself and the things that I hear. So you may know something that I don't know. But don't forget, I do have a part 2 coming. So we will go deeper into certain things, because certain theories, because that's what those kind of feminisms, that was their topic of discussion. You guys can follow me on Instagram at TayJahnee. That is Tay Jahnee, yours truly. Chef's kiss, yours. Beauty. Ashe, ashe.
Believe me when I say being a woman is great to see. I know that all the fellas out there will agree with me. Not for being one, but for being with one. Cause when it's time for loving, it's the woman that gets them strong. Stepping, strutting, moving on, rhyming, cutting, and not forgetting. We are the ones to give birth to the new generation of prophets, cause it's ladies first.